Ciao ragazzi, hello everyone. So today I'm going to show you my 5 top tips for learning Italian. These are some things that I've been doing that have really helped me improve my Italian, and that might help you as well. So let me show you what I've been doing. To give you some context, I started off as a beginner. I hadn't spoken Italian before. And I understood maybe a couple of words, but I was nowhere near proficient. My boyfriend is Italian, so of course the reason for me wanting to learn Italian was to be able to speak to him and his family and friends fluently in Italian. So I set out to learn Italian from scratch, and that was about a year ago. Prior to that, I knew a little bit because I was doing my own study, but I really ramped it up a year ago. So this is what I've been doing. Tip numero uno. Books. These two. So there are many books on the market, and I'm sure there's fantastic ones out there, but these are the two that I've been using. This is the first one. This is from Hopely. Very difficult book to find. You'd be very surprised. But this book really took it to the next level for me. And the reason for that is because it explains everything in English. So all of your exercises will be in Italian, but it does have the explanations, the exercises and what to do in English. So you really get a really good level of comprehension before getting into your exercises. So it goes through pretty much all the baseline things that you need for grammar, and that really sets you up for being able to structure sentences, understand words. So it's a really good baseline. And also what's fantastic about this book is they've got this key at the back, so the key to the exercises, and basically you've got all your answers in there, which is amazing. So once you do your exercises, try and do them first. You can always check and cross-reference that you've done them correctly. So this has really helped me. Second one is this Nuovo Espresso. This is the A1 book. So this is their first level. So this book has been great, but really only 6 months in for me specifically, and that is because it is fully in Italian, which again is great, but having no understanding of Italian, you would probably struggle a little bit with this. I would really only use this if you've got a teacher that takes you through the book. Then of course, perfetto, but otherwise hard. So books. My second tip. Now, this might come as a very obvious tip, but having a teacher. So I have an Italian teacher in Italy. So she's a native speaker and she's absolutely brilliant. Our lessons are once a week. So I spend about an hour in a lesson with her, and she teaches the lesson to me mainly in Italian. So when she's explaining the exercise, when she's explaining grammar or sentence structures or specific words, then she'll explain it to me in Italian, which forces me to get out of my comfort zone and really listen, try to understand what she's saying. And then we do, an entire lesson in an hour, and then she'll give me homework for the next week. So that really made the difference for me, getting a teacher to help you, because also you'll have questions. So you'll read the books and you'll say, well, why is it a male table and not a female table, or whatever. So something like that, and you have to be able to ask the questions. So get a teacher, it's great. There's so many different ways as well. You can also find online teachers or in person or schools, so many different around, but I like one-to-one. So that was tip number 2. Tip numero 3. So tip number 3 would be daily practice. So this goes without saying, but when you're trying to learn anything new, you need to practice. So a little bit of practice every single day goes a very long way. And whether that is learning verbs or whether it's memorizing specific words, in the house, or food, or actions, or specific sentences, whatever it may be, having a little bit of time every single day just to memorize something new that you can then use for the next day really, really makes a difference. Of course, if you have someone in your house, a friend, a family member, that speaks a bit of Italian, try and practice with them. Try and say things to them every single day, and try and build up that vocabulary. So doing a little bit every day goes a very, very long way. So that's tip number 3. Tip number 4. Tip number 4 would be to listen to music and movies. This, again, goes without saying, actually makes a really big difference. So what I would do is, the first time I would watch something, especially a movie, I would watch it with English subtitles. Or I would watch a movie that I know very well in Italian. So I know the storyline, I know what's happening, and then I can start to pick up on the intonations or what's happening in the scene if I've seen the movie. Disney's quite good for that. But if I haven't seen it before, I would watch it in English. I would watch the subtitles in English, and then I would watch it a second time. So they're speaking Italian, and then I'd watch the subtitles in Italian as a second time, because now I understand what's happening. The third time I watch it, I would watch it with the subtitles off, so I'm just listening. I can't see what they're saying, I can just hear it, and that really makes a big difference, because that's quite hard to do when you're learning initially. But doing stuff like that really helps to ingrain sentences, the way people speak, and that really helps you take it to the next level. So that is what I would do. And I would also listen to a lot of music. So get yourself a bit of a playlist, get someone to create it for you if you're not sure who to listen to. But I was listening to Vasco Rossi, Giovanotti, Giornalisti, Tommaso Paradiso, and then many, many, many more. But there were a few that I really listened to, also Elodie, and then some other new artists as well. So getting a list together, there's so many, I can't emphasize that enough, there's so many great artists out there. Really start listening to some good music, and then that will help you as well. So that is tip number 4. Okay, so the final tip number 5, would be to not be afraid to speak, not be afraid to try. Being able to speak and really get out the vocabulary that you've learnt, words that you've learnt, will really, really help you. And if you've got someone to speak to, amazing, speak to them as much as possible. The other thing I would do is I would go on either Duolingo or I would go on TikTok. They've got really good teachers on there, and you can just scroll through and, you know, pick up new words and really try and absorb as much as possible. Listen to it all the time, and that would really, really help you. The other thing that I have is I've got a notebook that I would write in. So I would write down all my verbs, and I would, all the different kinds of verbs, present, past, and I would memorize it. So I would go through and memorize, write it out. That really helps me to absorb it. It's not just hearing it or reading it, but really writing it out makes a really big difference. So those are my 5 top tips for learning Italian, or going from a beginner to an intermediate. I hope they helped you. I will see you next time. Ciao ragazzi. Ciao.